Hello, Movie Mavens. Welcome back to another video on the B Movies channel. My name is Bailey, and I put the B in movies. I hope you're having a good week. I don't know about y'all. I am so busy this holiday season. Just like way more than usual. So I have a lot of fun stuff. But again, I am beat today. I don't have too much to babble about today for today's Bailey Babbles. But this is a very friendly reminder to be kind to your waitstaff and retail workers, especially during the holiday season. The holidays are stressful enough. I promise you that people are trying their best, so chill. Be sure to tip your waitstaff well. Be patient with retail workers. Just be a good human being for the love of God, because I went to go see a movie that we're going to talk about later. Spoiler, it's Wicked. Spoiler, if you didn't see on my personal, I'm probably going to catch some strays for my review on Wicked. But I have never seen people be so rude to waitstaff like I witnessed on Friday. And it was insane to me. So be nice, I guess, is the message. Just like, I'm sure that it's not that a lot of people that watch these videos are, but just like a friendly reminder to be nice and be patient, and, you know, like, maybe don't yell at someone at Alamo Drafthouse halfway down a row because you ordered the incorrect thing and are not going to take any accountability for it because everyone heard you order the incorrect thing, and then you're trying to yell at a waiter who is halfway down the row taking someone else's order. Just a hypothetical situation that definitely didn't happen on Friday, that I definitely did not witness with my own two eyes. But just be nice, please. Tip your waitstaff well, please. Be nice to retail workers, please. Because in the holidays, everyone loses their mind and is really mean. And so, don't be, is the gist of today's Bailey's Babble. Bailey Babbles, if I can even talk. So, that's all I have to babble about. Hope you're having a good week. If not, I hope that you can find time to do something nice for yourself today to get ready, because Christmas is somehow 3 weeks away, a little over 3 weeks away, which is absolutely bonkers. So, yeah, just be kind to your waitstaff, be kind to yourself. That's the Bailey Babbles for today. So let's go ahead and jump into our blog roundup. If you're new to the channel, the B Movies channel is a continuation of the B Movies blog that I run with my best friend Elliot, who's my editor, collaborator, partner in crime, ride or die, and you can find all of the pieces that we're going to talk about today, A, linked in the description box below, and B, over at the B Movies blog, which is just bmovies.blog, and it's also linked in the description box below. So, we post blogs every Monday through Friday around 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can actually subscribe, so those go straight to your inbox. If not, we also post on Instagram Monday through Friday. Around 4:30 p.m. we post the blog for the day, so you can also find it there. So basically, you can find us in so many different areas, is the gist. So this week over on the B Movies blog, on Monday we talked about Pedro Pascal, the internet's daddy. His background is really fascinating, because like his parents were essentially enemies of the state in Chile because it became a dictatorship. It was really fascinating seeing his background and like how he came up through stage acting. He went to Tisch and everything. It's really cool. On Tuesday, we did the 3rd edition of A Girl Can Stream, which are fake streamer categories that I think should exist. That is all based on one offhanded at midnight category from years and years ago that I loved. On Wednesday, we ranked the Bob's Burgers Thanksgiving episodes. We also, as a disclaimer, reminded everyone that Thanksgiving is not the sweet little kindergarten innocent thing that we all learned about when we were in elementary school. We all did that kindergarten play or some variation of it. On Thursday, we served up the 2nd edition of Side Dish Cinema, where we paired Thanksgiving foods with movie recommendations, which we'll talk about more in our deep dive a little bit later on. And then on Friday, we did another edition of Drawing a Blank, a holiday edition with some holiday specials and special episodes. If you're not familiar with the series, basically I cultivate a list of cult cartoons that you may have forgotten about, and as an exclusive for our YouTube subscribers, there's absolutely going to be at least one more holiday Drawing a Blank, because once I started thinking about, like, cult, and, like, super deep cut Christmas animated movies and special episodes and everything, I already came up with another 10. So there's going to be at least one more, possibly two, but that is, I know that we just did one for, I don't even think we did one for Halloween, actually, but there will definitely be one next year. But there will be another one coming, just a heads up, as a YouTube exclusive. So to recap this week over on the B Movies blog, spotlight on Pedro Pascal, the third edition of A Girl Can Stream, a ranking of the Thanksgiving episodes of Bob's Burgers, side dish cinema with Thanksgiving foods, and Drawing a Blank Holiday Edition Part 1. So next up, let's go ahead and get into today's Bite Size Sunday. So Bite Size Sundays are just tiny little reviews that live over on our Instagram. They don't live on the blog, only on Instagram, just to clarify. And those are usually posted around 8 or 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Sundays. And on YouTube, since we drop videos on the weekends, you either get an exclusive hint, or on YouTube, you get to know what Bite Size Sunday is without having to look. So you get a little exclusive either way. And so today's Bite Size Sunday is Robot Dreams. And so just to give you a little teaser, I'm going to make you go read the whole review yourself, but just as a teaser, animated movies, for some reason, I have no control over my emotions in animated movies, and I will bawl so hard. And so in the theater, I have to be kind of careful, because I will just cry and cry and cry throughout the entire movie. And so, like, y'all are, like, I cried Moana too. Fully. Hard stop. So, I avoided seeing this one in the theater. I wish I had in retrospect. It's gonna be on my list for 10 of my favorite movies of this year, and I highly recommend renting it if you can. Obviously, I know that times are very hard right now, and not everyone has that luxury to rent off of video on demand. But it is available on Prime. I think it was like $4 for me to rent it. It's so good. It's devastatingly beautiful. It's heartfelt. It's tender. It's poignant. And you can read my full review over on Instagram. But I try not to, for those who don't know, I'm doing, for the rest of this year, which is also crazy that that's almost over, I've been doing a movie a day challenge where I watch a movie every single day. Like, not at the theater, like either at the theater or at home, wherever. And I post about it on Instagram, and that was my movie a day, and I try not to mix them with Bite Size Sundays, but I would just be remiss, y'all, if I didn't tell you about this movie on both. So check out the full Bite Size Sunday over on the B Movies Instagram, which is just at B Movies channel, same as our YouTube, and subscribe, follow us on Instagram if you don't already. Like I said, we post almost every day over there, with the between the blog of the day and Sundays, and then during October we do post every single day because we post 6 pieces a week. So definitely give us a follow if you haven't. So let's go ahead and get into today's deep dive, which, again, if you're new, the deep dive is the part of the video where we either talk about one of the pieces for the week, talk about something related to one of the pieces of the week, etc. And so let's talk about side dish cinema, with Thanksgiving foods. So just a little recap if you didn't watch last week's video. Side dish cinema is a series that we just started last week, where I take different beverages, foods, etc., and give you 3 recommendations for each. And so our first one was about hot beverages, so like apple cider, tea, hot chocolate, everything like that. And I decided it would be fun for Thanksgiving to do like some side foods. But first and foremost, I did combine it with, we usually do cheesy letters for the holidays, and so I kind of combined them. And so I do want to say first and foremost, like, how thankful we are for all of you, Movie Mavens, like all of you. I didn't know what to expect when Elliot and I started the B Movies blog almost 2 years ago, which, excuse me, we're already celebrating our second anniversary, which is nuts. And y'all have just continued to show up time and time again. And I really can't thank you enough. And secondly, I know that we're all scared and sad and angry about what's to come next year and in the years to come. And I also know that at the holidays, you may have to spend time with family members who aren't scared, if you catch my drift. And just for example, for me, our Thanksgiving used to be held at my great-grandmother's house. She was a Trump supporter. She was a Southern Baptist, which that's not to generalize, but she was a very hateful Southern Baptist. Again, not generalizing. That's just, she weaponized religion. That's what she did. Not generalizing. I have friends who are Christians who are some of the most accepting people in the world. She was not one. She was not one of them. And so I know how it is to spend holidays with people like that. Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know. So just like I said in the Bailey Babbles, do something nice for yourself today, because I know that the holidays are hard for a lot of people. I know how draining those conversations can be at gatherings. There was one I was thinking about when my sister kind of read my grandmother for filth one year. It was very funny over the book of Revelations, because she just said a bunch of uneducated things about it, and my sister just kind of read her for filth, and it was wonderful. But I know how hard it is, and I know that I'm very fortunate in that I don't have a very big family. And additionally, I mean, y'all know this, and like, I'm not trying to be funny, but like, a lot of my family is no longer here, and so my sister and brother-in-law are very liberal and very progressive, so when I spend time with them, there's not really that issue there. But I know that a lot of people either don't have the choice to not be around those people, or you may not be in a position where you can't not be around those people. And this time of the year can just be hard, right? Like, it's just, this time of the year is a hard time of year. But please know you're never alone. I'm going to continue to drop those same resources that I did last week in the description box. And don't feel ashamed or embarrassed that you have to use them. I've had to use them. To be very honest, I've used them. So I hear you and I see you. So, just to kind of highlight, to kind of like close out the cheesy letter part, just thank you for everything. I know this time of the year can be hard. We love you. Thank you so much for supporting us. And I hope that, as difficult as the holidays can be, that you do find some peace, and that at least we're here, you know, like, we're here for you, and we're also here to hopefully, you know, make you giggle and find some pop culture stuff that you can use to take your mind off and kind of like decompress after those family gatherings. So, moving on from that into, that's actually a very good segue. I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one later. So we decided to do side dish cinema with Thanksgiving foods. And listen, like, I know that everyone's Thanksgiving looks different. Some people don't celebrate. Totally hear you. These are just some of the staples from my childhood. Again, like, absolutely think you're well within your right to not celebrate Thanksgiving. It's, again, like I said up top, it's not the very civil, and they all lived happily ever after Thanksgiving narrative that most of us learn in school. And so, totally hear you. If you don't celebrate, or if your Thanksgiving looks different, totally understand. Like, please know this is just in good fun. This is not to make a statement on Thanksgiving. Well, it is to make a statement on Thanksgiving, but the statement is like, we know Thanksgiving is not the party that it was portrayed as. So, I took, I think, 8 or 9 staples from my childhood, or like from when I have crashed other people's Thanksgivings, that were staples at their house. So let's go ahead and start off with the main star, turkey, which is probably my least favorite part of Thanksgiving, if I'm being totally honest. But turkey just kind of has this warm feeling to it, this like warm, almost like sleepy energy. And so I paired Unlikely Angel, The Family Man, and Father of the Bride with it, because those are kind of like comfort movies. They're kind of warm, and that's, you know, from the turkey, since with the tryptophan or the tryptophan that's in the turkey makes y'all sleepy. That's what that kind of made me think of. Is they're the movie that you kind of curl up with and maybe half fall asleep to after dinner. So next up, stuffing or dressing, which I mean, it depends on, like, is it in the turkey, is it outside? But it's also, I grew up in the South, it's called dressing. That's what it's called in my house. That's what it was always called, whether it was in the turkey or not. And so for that, since it's kind of heavier and it's still, it's similar to the turkey, right? It gives you that kind of similar feeling. I did Hope Floats, Now and Then, The Princess Bride. Just, again, really good comfort movies, right? That you just kind of feel full after watching them. Next up, green bean casserole, which is controversially probably my favorite part of Thanksgiving. I did Bottoms, My Old Ass, Do Revenge, because, you know, it has that little bit of crunch to it with the crispy onions, and so I wanted something with a little bit of bite to it for that. Yams and sweet potato casserole. This is something that's very fall to me, right? Because you have the sweet potatoes, it has that color to it. Excuse me, and so I did Fantastic Mr. Fox, Good Will Hunting, and When Harry Met Sally. Next up, we have macaroni and cheese, which is just as a staple in my diet. Like, babies, like, I'll just be honest with you, mac and cheese is one of my favorite foods. And so I did, like, just Friends, The Wedding Singer, Sweet Home Alabama. Like, they're movies you continue to revisit. You know, they've been kind of in your arsenal for a long time. And as y'all know, like, The Wedding Singer is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. So, next up we have mashed potatoes. And for mashed potatoes, it's just like a good, reliable, like, hearty movie. And so I did Elizabethtown, Definitely Maybe, The Trouble with Angels. That's just the vibe that it gave me. And so next up for dessert, we have pumpkin pie. And so for pumpkin pie, I did Waitress because of the pie connection, obviously. Obvious Child and The Spectacular Now, because they all kind of have a similar feel to them. And again, it's just that dessert, you know, like after you're full, you may want something a little more thought-provoking or a little more, with a little bit more substance to it. And then for pumpkin pie, since it's such like in my head, like a traditional pie, and I have a weird thing about nuts and dessert, so it's never been my favorite, even though I do love these movies. To me, it's like more traditional, and so I did like Auntie Mame, All About Eve, and A Lonely Place, like an older movie, like older movies, kind of like what I did with Black Coffee. It's just more traditional to me. And so that is your Side Dish Cinema Thanksgiving edition. I'm definitely trying to figure out how to do a Christmas edition to Christmas/holiday, because again, I don't want to, just because I celebrate Christmas. Not everybody does, so that's why I try to kind of find some winter things as well, because I don't think it's fair just to like only focus on Christmas if I can avoid it. So yeah, that's Side Dish Cinema. And again, all these pieces are going to be linked below, and you can find them over at bmovies.blog. So now let's go ahead and move into today's special features. And we have a pretty stacked special feature section again today. So let's go ahead and start with Heretic. And just as a quick sidebar, if you're new to the channel, this part of the video is just for updates on our favorite analog horror and horror ARG series. And sometimes we talk about things that I don't talk about on Bite Size Sunday or the blog. So it's just an exclusive of subscribing to the YouTube channel, cough cough, is that you get to hear my opinion about things that people who aren't subscribed don't get to hear. So just letting you know, just a plug. So let's go ahead and start with Heretic. And so here's the thing, like, y'all know religious content gets me riled up, because I grew up in a very conservative religious town. Religion gets me real fired up. And I promise that has nothing to do with my opinion of this movie, truly. So I love the first act of Heretic. I really do. I like the first act a lot. And I think they do a really good job, like, setting this really uneasy tone. I honestly love the scene in the church where Hugh Grant breaks down religion by using, like, the iteration comparison. You know, with, like, the Landlord's Game and Monopoly, you know, and the Hollies to Radiohead to Lana Del Rey. Like, I love that. I can see how it can be pretentious, for sure. I personally loved it. However, I think after this, we start getting way too pretentious and we lose the plot a bit. If I'm being honest, I think it would have been really cool, and I feel like I can say this, because it's a spoiler in the sense of, like, it's not this, but I mean, I don't think anybody thought it was this. I thought, honestly, a cool reveal would have been to make Hugh Grant either God or the devil. I think that people probably would have hated it. And again, I think we would have had to do, like, you know how in Run, Sweetheart, Run, when he, like, shows her true form he, like, shows his true form to her, but we don't see it. We just see it from his POV, and so it's her, like, crying. We would have to do something like that, right? Because anytime you start getting into it, it gets, with CGI and everything, it gets kind of meh. But I would have personally loved that reveal if he was either God or the devil. I think it would have been kind of cool. I also think that Hugh Grant plays an excellent baddie. I would love to see him in more horror movies moving forward, TBH. And, I mean, like, also TBH, I think everyone's performances were really good. But I just feel like we lose the plot a little bit. And I feel like we kind of try to throw too many ideas out. And I'm like, you know, there's a part when she's literally deconstructing the model and things like that. I liked that. There was a lot I liked in it, but it just, the last 2 acts did not work for me. I think that we need to edit, maybe try to focus on one idea or another, because we start trying to throw too many things out. And, you know, I'll end with, like, y'all know that just because I don't like a movie doesn't make it a bad movie. Just because I like a movie doesn't make it a good movie. And please keep this in mind moving forward, because the movie reviews we have today, it's been a little bit of a miss for me on some movies lately. And so just please keep that in mind, and remember, like, I will always recommend you go see movies yourself and make your own decisions. I am just a silly goose who writes about pop culture on the internet. So, let's go ahead with keeping that in mind. Let's move to Gladiator II. I don't have too terribly much to say about Gladiator II, if I'm just being honest. Is it a good movie? No. Is it an entertaining movie? Yes. I think the CGI is really bad. I don't understand how every single person has a different accent. However, I do think Joseph Quinn is excellent in it. And I think that between seeing him and this and A Quiet Place Day One, I think we really need to keep our eyes on him. Because I think he's a real up-and-coming tour de force. And I think that Joseph Quinn is really going places. And I may eat my words on that. But I'm going to keep my eyes on Joseph Quinn, because his performances in this and A Quiet Place Day One, he's on the rise. And I would definitely keep my eyes on him. And so now, we get to the part of the video that I'm so scared I'm going to get a lot of flack for. And y'all, please don't hate me for this. But let's talk about Wicked Part 1. So, before I get into my criticisms, I just want to say a few things. So, first and foremost, I do think this is a movie right now because it tells the story of a badass woman being villainized by an incompetent and impotent, because he can't do magic, spoiler, man, because she's trying to help a repressed group and refuses to just blindly do his bidding. Respect that. Think we need more movies like that. Additionally, I think Cynthia and Ariana are both incredible in this movie. Truly. So I'm going to be very honest. I didn't love this movie. I thought it was fine. For context, if you don't know, I am not the biggest fantasy / fairy tale movie person. Like, I obviously love the Brandy version of Cinderella. I love Stardust. I love The Princess Bride. I love Penelope. There are some of them I love. But like we know, I controversially don't enjoy the Lord of the Rings movies. I've never been able to get into Game of Thrones. I was kind of into Harry Potter as a kid, but I mean, especially now, no. Knowing... Oh, I'm going to kick my table over because I'm so upset about She Who Shall Not Be Named and her little black moldy house. I'm just not a big fantasy girly. I like The Hunger Games was even like a big deal that I enjoyed The Hunger Games as much as I did. So, keeping that in mind. Also, keeping this in mind. Wicked was not the musical I loved growing up. Like, I was in band from 6th through 12th grade, did marching band in high school, all 4 years. For me, that beloved musical was The Phantom of the Opera, which tracks because it's like more horror leaning, more gothic. That was my big thing. Like, when I got to go see that for the first time live, I cried. Like, that was my big one. And so, like, that's why I, like, love the Emmy Rossum Gerard Butler movie. And obviously, The Phantom of the Opera is problematic because Christine is, like, apparently, like, 16 years old. But, like, understanding that criticism. So, a third thing to keep in mind, because I feel like I really have to justify myself on this one. I loved the first 3 books in the Wicked series, and I read Wicked, like the first one, several times. So I'm familiar with the source material. Yeah. So I have, Pudge. Okay, no. So I have 2 big issues with this movie. The first issue is, to me, and a lot of people disagree with me on this one, but a lot of people agree with me on the second one, so we're 50-50, baby. I feel like it feels really rushed for a movie that's 2 hours and 40 minutes long. I love you, but I'm not going to rub your butt, buddy. He's Pudge's in a full-on terrier fit, because I won't rub his butt. My first issue is that it feels rushed for 2 hours and 40 minutes long. To me, it just felt like bam, ba-bam, 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 ba-bam. And I know that we have to cut stuff out. I know that we only have a certain amount of time, right? But I almost feel, this is my hot take, this may have needed to be a trilogy. I said it. Because it just feels like we're bop, ba, bop, ba, bop, bop, bop. Before I knew it, it was last call, and I was like, wait, what? So then, my second and my bigger issue is all of the CGI and the colorization of this movie. For me personally, I need my musical film adaptations to still feel like of the stage, in the sense that I want to see big set pieces and or for them to take the musical off the stage to the actual location. So, like, for example, Mamma Mia was a big destination movie, right? And then you look at Phantom of the Opera, and they have the big set pieces. So, for me, all of the CGI and, like, all of the saccharine, sweet colorization that's, like, crisp and weird, it just felt like another fantasy fairy tale movie for me, which, as we established earlier, is not my jam. I personally think it should have been in Technicolor, a la what Ty West did for Pearl, because the colorization of this movie really took me out of it. Also, I love Michelle Yeoh, obviously. And I don't think she was the right fit for Morrible, nor do I think Jeff Goldblum is the right fit for the Wizard. My hot take is, I would have loved to see Idina Menzel as Morrible, because it would have been this cool juxtaposition of taking Elphaba, someone who played Elphaba and really brought Elphaba to life, and putting her in this bad role. And then for me, when I think of the Wizard, I think of someone like Martin Short, which would have been perfect, because Martin Short has done musical theater, right? So if you're gonna do a music, and I may catch a lot of flack on this one. I feel if you're going to take something like Wicked, everyone needs to be able to sing at the caliber of Ariana and Cynthia, or at least like really be able to hold their own with them. And I don't think we get that. However, I love the diversity of this movie. I love the diversity of this movie. I think Bowen Yang is a scene stealer in almost every movie he's in, because he delivers these lines that are just so zingy, and the way that he delivers them is hysterical. I love that, again, how diverse the cast is. I love all of those pieces. There were also parts I cried. But it just wasn't for me. I will absolutely see part 2 because I am a completionist and I'm interested to see. And I'm sure what's probably going to happen is everybody's going to hate part 2 and I'm going to love part 2. But that's just my take. I think I liked it. I did not love it. It's not the same thing like, for example, after I saw Mamma Mia, I still listen to that soundtrack all the time. When I go to listen to the Rent soundtrack, I listen to the original movie soundtrack over the Broadway recording. This is not like that for me. It's just not. I really wanted to be obsessed with it and love it, and I'm just not. So that's my take. Don't hate me. Again, just because I don't like something doesn't make it a bad movie. But I was just not the biggest fan of Wicked Part 1. So, let's reset. Let's take a deep breath. And let's move into, we have a new episode of Hell of a Boss, which, let's reset. So we have Hell of a Boss Mastermind, and we have to talk about this latest episode. No spoilers because it just dropped, but I was so scared for a minute. I got nervous. I bawled during the duet, which will make sense once you see it. And I just say this every single time, but Hell of a Boss just continues to exceed my expectations at every turn, and I think it's genuinely become one of my favorite shows. If you haven't watched it, now's the time. Decompress after the holidays with something that your conservative family would probably faint at the sight of. All of the episodes are up on YouTube for free, so definitely watch it if you haven't. There are trigger warnings at the beginning of every single episode, so like, no, this is not, even though it's animated, it is not for children. But yeah. So, the newest episode is up. It's so good. You need to watch it. So let's move into, we don't have a new Rapid Eyes video, but we have a Rapid Eyes update. So Care, who is the creator of Rapid Eyes, recently posted to their community tab to let us know, like, the series isn't over, but they've just been going through a lot. And they announced another series that they've been working on that we're actually going to dive into next week. And they also apologized and told us that they'll be taking a little bit more time before the next upload. But Care, my friend, take your time, please. The series is so good, and like, we'll all be seated whenever you upload next. Take care of yourself. We'll be here, and I'll go ahead and link to the Rapid Eyes channel below, just so y'all can subscribe, get caught up. And again, Care, take your time, my friend. Your mental health is way more important. So next up, we have a teaser trailer for a new arc of Rot by the East Patch. Y'all know I'm a huge East Patch fan. The Megan sisters are incredible. So the ship from Rot seems to have like lost its medical wing in some sort of purposeful explosion. We're all being told like this is going to be an emergency call to Rot. And from what I've gathered, the perp seems to have reported themselves to get in here. So it may be the person that we've been seeing in previous episodes of Roth that's been sending messages. Is it that person? Is it someone working with that person? Either way, I'm pumped. Y'all know I love this series. I'm so excited that new episodes seem to be on the way. And this is also the perfect time to catch up on Rot if you haven't checked out the other episodes. It's so good. It's such a fun series. It's such a fun concept. You'll definitely need to check it out. So next up, I am stoked. AKA a new analog horror / horror ARG obsession just dropped thanks to Loey Lane. Thank you, Loey Lane. Keeping us fed. So, let's talk about Your Eyes in the Woods. So Your Eyes in the Woods is a found footage / paranormal / conspiratorial analog horror series and horror ARG that's currently unraveling over on TikTok. So Alice and her friends find some VHS tape featuring these two rangers named Ranger Kennedy and Ranger Brown, aka our Eyes in the Woods, as they identify themselves. And in these tapes, they give us wilderness and survival tips that aren't quite right. From the mention of cryptids to including some candid footage where the rangers seem to be in danger or maybe not doing this willingly. The VHS tapes clearly aren't what they seem. But friends, that's not all to this series. Alice and her friends, the ones that found the tape, also are working on a series based on the VHS tapes, including a short film, or as they call it, a proof of concept, that's so high quality, it's insane. And then we find out that not only do we have this mystery within the VHS tapes themselves, Alice and her friends and the crew that are making this series start experiencing some paranormal and unexplainable activity while trying to make this series based on the tapes. Is it a cult? Is it cryptids? Is it a conspiracy? What really happened to Rangers Brown and Kennedy? Who is the mysterious third ranger who shoots some of the videos with them? Which my theory is, it's the same person who recorded the warning that we don't see until later on that, warning, the tapes that Brown and Kennedy did aren't real, blah, blah, blah. I think it's the same camera person. That's my theory. But anyway, Your Eyes in the Woods is so cool because the creators of this project could have easily just chosen to stick with the VHS tape route. And that would have been solid. I would have still been in. But they're going all in. And it reminds me of, this level of commitment and I don't want to say, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, the level of commitment, we'll just leave it there, that we've seen in stuff like Everyman Hybrid, the old school YouTube projects, right? The Tulpa Effect, all these things where the creators just went all in. And this one's special, y'all. I'm really stoked about this. I'll link the TikTok. I told you I was tired. The TikTok account below. And I'm also going to link Loey Lane's video because she goes into more detail. But definitely keep your eyes on this one because I definitely think it's one to watch and I will definitely keep you updated. I'm obsessed with this. So next up, let's get into the McKinney Family Home Videos finale. And so, as I mentioned last week, the McKinney Family Home Videos channel posted in the community tab that the finale, or hopefully just the finale for this arc, was coming later this week. And of course, it dropped right as soon as I was getting ready to record and finish my script. So let's talk about the finale illegible. So the video starts with the traditional VHS static before swapping into footage of Dwayne showing a dead end near the house that leads to a creek. And he talks about how he'd like to bring Christy, who's he and Jess's daughter, down there to fish. And then it appears there was a bridge at the dead end before. And he's definitely seeing people come out this way only to turn around. He also shows us the shed that we've seen in previous videos and mentions multiple times that Jess refuses to go inside. He also says that he's aptly named the shed, but then when he says the name, the video cuts. He again reiterates that Jess does not want to go in here and he has no idea why. And so he begins to explore the inside more and he finds a Bible. He finds a big wreath. He even comments that it felt like someone left in a hurry. And then we cut to nighttime, where we see someone in a red robe in front of the camera, and the text, "The harvest is upon us," comes up on the screen. We then see footage of someone walking towards the person in the red robe, and the text says, "We've abandoned our tongues," across the screen. So then we cut to footage of what appears to be, what I'm deducing is, the railing from that dead end that we saw earlier in the daytime. And we see someone in a red robe, as well as another person. I think they're in a black robe. I couldn't tell if they were in regular clothes or a black robe, because there's someone in a black robe that we'll get to in a second. And the text, "We have given up our names," appears on the screen as we hear someone scream in the background. We then cut back to the shed, and someone in a black robe or shroud is at the other end, like we're facing them. And the text, "We relinquish our humanity," comes up on the ground. And then we cut to a black screen that says "to you and to her," which we can assume her is capitalized, meaning Lilith. So then we cut to footage of a first-person POV of someone walking towards a tall wooden cross with red material draped across it. And the text says, "You are my loyal servant." And then we get jump scared hard as a tape starts like basically playing through a montage of all the tapes we've seen so far. It's like a fast forward, really. It almost like it looks like it puts it in sequential order and is fast forwarding through it as people scream in the background. And the text, it's a lot of scrambled, but the phrase "vengeance is yours" stays prominently on the screen throughout. And, we continue to cut through the entirety of the series, and they put that laughter from Diana in the background. And then the screen cuts to black as the word "everything" appears. We then cut to footage of a crackling fire as we see someone crucified on that cross that we saw earlier. And text appears on the screen that says, "Dry your tears," followed by, "You will be with me in paradise." And then we get a close-up of the bottom of the cross where the blood is pooled. We then get a close-up of the person on the cross who appears to be the figure we saw earlier in the series in the white robe that has the mask on. And then the text, "Diana, my child," appears on the screen, followed by "The harvest has begun." We then cut back to Dwayne in the shed as he continues to say like he doesn't want the kids in there, and like he honestly gets an uneasy feeling he doesn't want to be in there longer than he has to be. He then hears a snapping noise behind him and turns, and then the screen cuts back to like the cross from earlier, and the figure who was on the cross is now off of it, like back on the ground, and is slowly walking towards the camera as we hear what sounds like a baby crying in the background. And then the figure turns back to the cross and kneels before it. We cut back to Dwayne in the shed, where we see him find a VHS tape on something that appears to be covered in blood. And then we're back to the cross, as we can see several cult members on either side of the cross, as the bloody figure in white holds the baby, and text that says, "What will you name this child?" comes up on the screen. And then the camera then zooms in on the figure in white as they look at the camera and slowly walk towards it, as the text says, "She will love it," pops on the screen. So then we cut to like a first-person POV of someone like running, and then cut to close-ups of all the people in the cult who are wearing masks that to me look like the painting that we saw in that original family's home, that little square painting, and it's the same one that Dwayne found in the basement. And then we cut to a door as a text says, "Your child will know me." And there's a peephole on the door, and then an eye starts looking through and around the door. As a text that says, "This was your home, this was never your home," appears on the screen. And so then we see footage of someone clearly recording Dwayne as he's doing, like in the very first video where he's showing around, someone was recording him. I believe it's Dwayne. That's what I'm inferring. And then text appears on the screen that says, "It is your tomb." So we have, "This was never your home, it is your tomb," which is jarring. So then we cut back to the cross again as a full moon is in the background and Amazing Grace plays. So then we cut to an extreme close-up of that figure in the white robe and the white and black masks, and the text "Miracle" appears on the screen. We linger on this briefly before the screen goes to white and then makes a horrible noise, and that is the end of the video. So I think I understand everything. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Here's what I'm understanding. Here's my takeaway. They wanted Christy. That's why in one of the videos, that's why Christy had that VHS tape. The baby, I believe, is the Walden's baby. Because if you remember, she was either pregnant or they just had a baby. Diana is the figure in white, I believe. And my takeaway is that all of this was preordained. It's like, you know, in Saw, when like it cuts back with the da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. That's to me what this was. Is that this was all preordained. Everything happened exactly how it was supposed to. Dwayne and his family moved into that house because, you know, after the Walden stuff, blah, 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 blah. That's how I took it. That's how I take it away. But I'm interested to hear what y'all think. This series really does make my skin crawl. And it is / was one of my favorite analog horror series out there. I do hope that maybe we can expand the universe at the very least. Or at the very least, I do hope y'all are planning on making more horror content because you're really, really good at it. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. As always, I will link the video and the channel below, but this is a good series, y'all. This is a good one. And I can't wait to see what comes next. So the last thing I have for y'all today is the Briscoe Park YouTube channel. I didn't want to mention it because it's getting a lot of coverage right now in the horror space. So the Briscoe Park channel currently consists of 12 tapes, including a 30-minute video of found footage. There currently isn't a lot known about this channel, outside of the fact that it appears to be an agent for some sort of organization visiting these remote locations to like monitor them for some sort of activity. However, we can deduce that some sort of entity or entities are following this agent / maybe that's what they're monitoring, because we see uncanny figures and eyes throughout the tapes. The tapes also start at tape 4 instead of tape 1. So there's kind of a mystery of like, where are the first 3 tapes? And honestly, to me, Briscoe Park is kind of like lo-fi beats to study to, but for horror fans that also include an unraveling story. Other creators have found and mentioned in their videos, like they found Easter eggs in the descriptions and title cards that include like the codes for chemical elements and also allusions to remote viewing, which would make sense. Like if you don't know what remote viewing was, it was, I think in the 60s and 70s, it was really big with like the FBI and the CIA were like trying to see if like they could train people with like that psychic ability to like basically remote view in to spy to see if they could see it. It wasn't really successful, but that's something else that's been alluded to apparently throughout some stuff in this series. And so like maybe we're seeing someone remote view in, that's why it looks the way that it does. It's just really interesting because it seems to almost have popped up out of nowhere. And according to a response on a comment, this is actual footage and isn't rendered. And so like I just think this is a really cool project and I'm really interested to see where this goes. It's really cool. So I'll definitely link the channel below. And then finally, let's do our subtitles, which are just little pieces of pop culture news from around the internet. So first up, Alan Tudyk has officially been announced as the voice of Clayface in James Gunn's new animated series called Creature Commandos. And it's been confirmed that if Clayface does appear in a live action movie, Alan Tudyk will voice him as well, which is very exciting. Shudder and RLJE Films have announced an adaptation of Clown in a Cornfield that will be directed by Eli Craig, who is the director of Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, one of my favorites, as well as the producers of Smile, which I love Smile and Smile 2 both. The Blue Man Group has officially announced that they'll be performing their last show in February after a 34-year residency in New York, which is wild. And then on a very sad note, RIP to Bob Breyer, who was the drummer for My Chemical Romance. We're sending all the good thoughts and vibes to his friends and family, and they absolutely have all of our condolences. So that is going to do us for today's video. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Feel free to follow me on Instagram at Lisa_Frankenstein_. Feel free to follow Elliot at reading.with.red. Be sure to follow us at bmovies channel, same as our YouTube. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. It's free. Give us a like if you feel so inclined, and leave a comment if you're feeling frisky. And on that note, all that's left to do is fade to black.